All right, let's go ahead and kick things off. So my name is Josh Carter. I'm the marketing manager here at Hatch. I'm going to be serving as the moderator. So as you have questions, just drop them into the chat or the Q&A. I'm really excited to be partnering up with Socius and Tundraland and having these guys on the webinar, great industry experts. So let's kick things off. Brian, mind sharing a little bit about yourself, your experience in the space and the business you built?
Yeah, sure thing. So my name is Brian. Hi, everybody. By the way, thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate it. My name is Brian Gottlieb. I'm the CEO and founder of Tundraland Home Improvements. We're obviously a replacement contractor. We do bath remodeling, replacement windows with Renewal by Andersen, where we have decks and we do walk-in baths as well. I've got about 500 employees throughout our whole organization, and you know, we're just a fun growing company, and I think we'll have some fun today.
Good stuff, Ted.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Ted Kozel. I'm from Socius Marketing. We specialize in online lead generation and online lead conversion, basically anything related to Google. But I've been in the marketing space for several years, helped hundreds of companies in just about every type of marketing there is. I'm really looking forward today with some good questions, and Brian's knowledge of the industry and how to run a business in the space, I think, is going to be awesome for everyone here.
Yeah, very excited for this, guys. So looking at the attendees, interesting spread between interior and exterior remodelers, some solar folks on the line here, some window and door companies, as well as HVAC. All of us here have experience in these industries, particularly on the remodeling space and the exterior space. So we're here and able and ready to answer any questions that you might have as we go through each section here on the webinar today. So let's get going here. A lot of what we're going to be talking about today is adjustments that were made during COVID that you're going to keep and that are really pushing the industry forward. So let's start off with a poll question. How was this quarter for you? Worse than Q4, about the same as Q4, or better than Q4? I'm curious the type of responses we'll get given, obviously the winter season and coming into spring, but looks like most of you guys are doing better than Q4 of last year. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, we thought this would be a good question to ask it this way, as opposed to maybe trying to compare it to last year with how crazy some states and some locations had it. So we thought the best way is probably looking at this quarter over quarter to see how things were going.
Yep. Well, the good news is that a majority of you guys are doing better than Q4. So that's excellent. 56% of you guys, and 41% of you guys are doing about the same as Q4. So it's good to be the same, if not better. Obviously, we want to do better. And so big focus on this webinar today is going to be talking about ways that you can grow your business in 2021, some of the changes that were made in the past that will help you propel yourself into 2021 as we head into the busy season. So thanks for participating in this poll. So we got Brian here, from CEO and founder of Tundraland, built quite the company, number 21 remodeler in the US. Brian, you mind sharing a little bit about what you guys offer, your location, who you work with, all that good stuff?
Yeah, sure. So again, thanks for joining us. Yeah, and by the way, so if you're on this webinar, I think it's important to understand our startup story. When I started, in fact, there are a couple of people on this that are checking in on this the chat line that I actually used to work with when I was in my consulting days. I would work with them and visit with them. So before entering the home improvement space as my own company, I was in the consulting industry. But when I started this business, when I started Tundraland, I started it in 2009 in the back of a friend's warehouse on a plastic folding table with $3,000 in cash. And at that time, that $3,000 in cash, there wasn't like a lot of other $3,000s of dollars that I could put towards it. So it had to work. So we had to come out of the gate really strong. And, again, today, and the only thing we've known inside of our organization is rapid growth. So I want to kind of talk to you about, if you're trying to grow a business, try to help you from stepping into a potential bear trap that I've already stepped into, and talk about the pressures of growth and how to manage through that. So, because I think a lot of people are grown in a post-COVID environment, and now what do you do next? So today, again, we have about 500 employees. Our product line is, we're a jacuzzi bath remodel company. We do a ton of deck projects. We use a product called Green Bay Decking. And we're also a Renewal by Andersen location. I have actually 2 locations, a Renewal by Andersen of Milwaukee and Renewal by Andersen of Greater Wisconsin. So, yep, I look forward to today. It'll be great.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
And I'll talk real briefly on Socius Marketing. For those of you that don't know us, we are Socius Marketing, been around since 2006. Specialize in the home improvement space, pretty much anything related to Google. So website, SEO, social media, pay-per-click, anything that touches the internet, Socius is involved with. We work with hundreds of home improvement contractors throughout the U.S. I think we're probably the largest too. We're north of 100 employees, solely focused on this space. We don't farm anything out. And have had great success, and have been happy to work with Brian for some time.
Awesome. Thanks, Ted. And Hatch, we're a messaging app for home improvement companies. Really excited to be working with the Tundraland team on their rehash efforts. Essentially what we do is we're, that one-stop shop for all your communication. It's one inbox for all your communication. We connect up to your CRM, all your lead sources, to pull in those contacts and instantly text, email, leave a voicemail with those leads, handle all your homeowner communication from one place. And it's really collaborative, so your entire sales team can jump in and communicate with leads and close deals. So really excited to be here today on this webinar with 2 amazing industry experts. So let's go ahead and get things started here. And we're going to get things started with a giveaway. So at the end of this webinar, we're going to give away a Yeti. And all you have to do to win this Yeti is text your first and last name to 804-395-6006. So we'll give people 20 seconds to text your first and last name to 804-395-6006. So if you're not in front of your phone, go run and grab it real quick, and we'll do the drawing at the end of the webinar. And in fact, we're actually using Hatch technology to shoot you a text after you text your first and last name. So you'll get to kind of experience the power of one-on-one text message communication there.
Josh, our presenters eligible to win.
Ted, I'll send you a Yeti and have to see if I can get that expense. All right, cool. We'll leave it up for just another few seconds here. I see a few of you guys just texted in, so we'll give it just a minute. And you all should have gotten a text back with a picture of a guy throwing a Yeti. So, hope you appreciate that. Maybe use it as a meme when you're texting somebody later. All right, we'll announce it at the end of the webinar. So what we're going to be covering today, we mentioned this earlier. I'll go through this real quick. COVID-19 impact industry projections. Brian's entrepreneurial story. You mentioned you started with $3,000 in a warehouse, or small warehouse, and with a folding table. How he grew the business and things to look out for as you're growing your business. Charity work that Brian and his team have done over at Tundraland. A lot of great stuff there. You type in Tundraland on Google and you see so many news articles about the work and the great work that they're doing for our veterans. Sales and marketing strategies, ways they're approaching rehash, ways they're approaching lead generation, as well as production challenges that the industry is facing. I mean, one of the biggest things that I hear from contractors is, we can't keep up with the demand. We've got backlog in material, and labor is really tough to hire for. So we're going to talk about ways that Brian is addressing those challenges. And as I mentioned before, again, go into the Q&A section on the right-hand side. As we go through each of these sections, you have a question for Brian, go in there and ask your question, and we'll make sure that we address it. So let's go ahead and kick things off. I want to highlight this new segment of homeowners that just sort of emerged this past year. As a millennial myself and having a bunch of friends that are also millennials that purchased houses, I thought this was really important to highlight in the beginning, because this might adjust how you address homeowners from a lead generation perspective, from a communication perspective, from a sales cycle perspective, how your sales reps are working leads and working these prospects in the home. It's interesting. 30% of millennials are house hunting earlier than ever before due to the pandemic. 37% of home buyers in 21 were millennials, and the average age of their home is 37 years old. What does that mean? That means that they're going to be more likely to need additional work done to their home. They're buying single family homes, but these homes, are from the, 1980, 1982 on average. So another interesting stat that we found here is that 75% of these millennials actually prefer texting over talking. So we're going to be talking about a little bit about homeowner communication strategies as well, and the ways that Brian's addressing that. And, texting is a big piece of that. So I just want to highlight this. Millennials were a big segment last year, as well as baby boomers. Those TUP conversions were really popular. We saw a big increase in that. So just figured we'd lay the landscape there. So first question for you, Brian. Obviously, COVID-19 brought about a lot of industry changes. What did you make last year that you intend on keeping this year?
Right. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Josh. So, it's interesting because, like everybody, COVID was so disruptive for our businesses because we didn't know which end was up, and we didn't have all the information to make all the right decisions. So what we did know is early on we needed to come up with ways to keep our employees safe, to keep our customers safe, and quite frankly, to stay in business. I mean, the first rule of business is to stay in business. So that was like the goal. But where it led us to is, because we didn't have all the answers, it was super important for us to make sure we were great communicators with our team. And we moved to a structure where different leaders in our organization, myself included, by the way, we would have a daily huddle with my leadership team. My leaders would have a daily huddle with their managers, and the frontline managers would have a daily huddle with their team. We also had to move the whole business remotely practically overnight. So in the early days, those were things that we did without realizing the benefit of it. What we've learned, and we've kept it, is that daily huddles have made such a positive impact in our business. It's such a basic principle, but it's really, I think in any growing organization, one of the big challenges is communication gaps, and daily huddles really help keep everybody on the same page. Even some days we have absolutely nothing to talk about. You know what? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's about the mechanics and the habit of a daily huddle. Working remotely, I don't know that we've got 40 some odd people in our call center. I don't know that we'll ever have a business where everybody's back in a bullpen dialing. I think it's a more productive way that we open up to a wider pool of people, that we can have single moms that maybe want to work for a couple of hours here and there. It's just now, of course, what comes with that is you got to make sure you're not losing your culture when you have a whole bunch of people working remotely, or you're not creating silos. But that was in the early days of COVID. Once, like all of us, though, who knew this was going to be a home improvement boom? And what we saw was, oh my gosh, our backlog, business is unbelievable. It's growing like crazy. The other thing we had to do is we had to shift our focus from being a home improvement company to being a training organization. We knew that if we're going to really drive down our backlog, and I know we're going to talk more about this a little bit later, if we're really going to drive down our backlog, we have to reimagine the way we onboard an installation team, the way we train them, the way we expedite them, the way we compensate them, and even the way we recruit them. So we had to change the way we looked at the back end of our business. And by the way, included in that is, how do we simplify the business so that the training is a lot easier? So all of those things are things that are actually made us stronger, and they're going to continue to make us stronger. And especially when you think about your business as a training organization, all of a sudden it becomes a strong competitive advantage.
I love that, Brian.
You talked a little bit about that culture, and I'm sure we're going to touch on this, or at least I hope we're going to talk on this more in depth. But what are some quick ways to kind of keep a company that is spread apart, regardless of the size, from siloing or just feeling, not a part of the team anymore?
Yeah. So look, that's a huge question, Ted. Right? How do you salespeople don't like production people don't like salespeople, and nobody likes the call center and all of that, right? And hopefully everybody likes the CEO. I don't know, but anyway, but it's really about. To me, it's about what we've done in our organization, and we're going to talk more about this in some of these other questions, is one of the key roles of a manager is to work across silos. And it's so important that your organization has a vision statement, but also each department has its vision statement, and for everybody to understand how those different businesses work together. And if you think about internally, if you think about the supplier-customer relationship inside of your own organization, and we'll just take a call center and we'll just take a sales team and just look at those two. If you think about the call center's biggest customer is their sales team, and they're in the business of supplying good appointments to the sales reps. The production's biggest customer, the sales rep sells jobs to the production department. And if you keep a supplier-customer relationship throughout the whole organization, you can then have conversations internally. How can we be a better customer, and how can we be a better supplier? And it's those conversations that really drop silos down. If you're not having those conversations that, hey, how can we be a better production team for the sales force? And Salesforce, how can we be a better deliverer of goods to you, the production team, for you guys? What do we need to do better at? But the more you have those kind of conversations, the more everybody's pulling in the same direction. And that's really what helps a lot.
So in terms of changes that you made last year, and obviously you talked about those adjustments with those team huddles, what do you see kind of just looking not necessarily to 21, but maybe past 2021? What are some of the things that you're seeing that you might have to adjust to, and changes that you might see in that industry?
Yeah, I think the risk we all face in the home improvement industry, and it really shows up on the window side of things. In the bath business, we've always been really good at hiring people and turning them into installers really quickly. It seems like the window industry, there's this, it's a lot more difficult, and the pool of quality window installers, that it gets thinner and thinner because people are aging out, and there aren't a lot of people saying, boy, I want to graduate high school and install replacement windows. And I think that's a risk for all of us in the industry. We have to say, as an industry, how do we become a cool industry to work for? How do we tell our story at tech schools and at high schools that it's a respectable career path that people can have? This isn't just about doing construction. It's about doing noble work and looking at what you just did and feeling good about it. And I think, but along with that is, the type of company that you want to be too, that I think people don't want to just install windows. I think that if they're going to go to work for a company, they want to join a culture that's impactful too. And that's where I don't think you can separate the mission and vision of your business and what you stand for and your culture from your recruitment efforts, and how not to, because there's an aging out population of installers. I think you have to adapt to what the types of businesses that people want to go to work for today. The other thing I think is that, look, it would have been really super hard to navigate, and maybe some of you had this problem that are on this webinar right now. In the early days of COVID, maybe you weren't paperless. Maybe you weren't using the right technology in your phone system, and trying to navigate, how do I separate people, keep them safe while passing folders around? I think technology has played a huge part in our success in allowing us to grow through these difficult times. I mean, we've been paperless since before it was cool. But I think that it's going to be hard for companies, if you're trying to compete in 2022 and 2023 and 2024, and you haven't embraced technology in your organization, I think you're going to be competing with one hand tied behind your back, and I think you're going to be at a competitive disadvantage. And I think that's going to really start to show itself over the next couple of years.
Yeah, Brian, did you see any technological innovations happen in 2021, or did that kind of stall? Or excuse me, 2020?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that what we learned is that there have been things out there. I mean, Hatch, what you folks do is one example of it, right? How do we find other ways to communicate with our customers, whether they're buyers or non-buyers, using technology? Because maybe you can't hire up enough call center people in order to reach people. So how do you lean on technology to help? But I mean, there's so many good tools out there that can be used. I think every company needs a champion of technology in order to implement it, though. I think that's really super important.
That's a great point.
Really incredible answer so far. I wanted to get into some of the specifics here on growing the business, because hopefully in this group of attendees, there's the next Tundraland, or, you know, the next bigger than Tundraland even. And what are, you know, some of the tangibles that you wish you knew, and some of the things we can talk through? So the first one here is, look, I know you can't go back and it always, where I wouldn't change the thing to get us where we are today, but, you know, if you could advise the younger you, or the person who's starting the next, you know, Tundraland, what's something you did wrong, or something you wish you had adapted quicker that kind of helped make some of those leaps with the ability of looking back on it?
Yeah. So when I first started the business, and Dave Cerrone from Fitch Construction is on here. He was one of the people I used to visit with and, you know, consult with. And he knew, you know, first and foremost, I'm a sales and marketing kind of guy, right? I'm going to go in the home and I'm going to do a presentation. I'm going to sell a project, and that's how I grew the business. And if you'd have asked me back in 2009, do you think I'll ever grow a big business without me running appointments? I would have said, this is just not a chance. You know, I'm the sales guy, right? But what I learned quickly early on, and in some ways I waited too long, is the key to business is to hire to your weaknesses as quickly as possible. Yeah, be honest with yourself and hire to your weaknesses as quickly as possible, and get the heck out of the way. Because I'll tell you my personal journey. My personal journey was, here I am, you know, a person that felt very confident running a sales call. But what I was doing is I'm pulling up to somebody's home, and I'm on the phone with my production manager trying to solve a problem with their sunroom, and I'm dealing with this other thing over here, and then I'm going to put my phone down and try to walk in and do a real sales presentation. And what I found is I was actually shortcutting the thing that I was really good at. What you want to do is you want to hire to your weaknesses, and understand that as an organization that you don't ever want to be the bottleneck. You know, I mean, and ever want to be the bottleneck. If you fast forward today, if you were to come to my office, you'll see a desk with at Tundraland, I don't have any drawers in my office. There are no drawers because I don't want a piece of paper in my office. Because if there's a piece of paper in my office, it's in the wrong place. That means I'm the bottleneck. So I would say if when growing a business, think bold and think about a great org chart, and build out always start with your org chart, and you'll really soar a nice business.
I love that. And I think everybody's always wondering, I mean, people here are all across the board. Some folks are doing less than $1 million. Some folks are doing 5. And I saw some companies that are even upwards of 20, 25 million. What was that thing? Because a lot of companies have a hard time scaling past a certain amount, right? What was that catalyst that helped you make that jump from 5 million to booking 10 million in jobs in a year?
Yeah, and it almost seems like a lifetime ago. You know, so this year we're trending to $134 million in revenue. That's a big business, you know. But early on in those days, you know, what was 5 to 10, you're doubling your business, and maybe some of you on this webinar have doubled your business over the past year. And what you probably have realized is that as you start plugging systems into your business, by the time it's time to implement them, you've already outgrown the system that you're trying to plug into your business. And it's clunky, it's imperfect, it's not easy, and that's why not everybody does it. That's the first thing you should know. It's that I think it's about making sure that, number one, that you share a big vision for your team. Let them know where you're trying to go, but also let them know that the journey is not going to be a perfect one. Okay, growing a business from $5 to $10 million means you have to be very entrepreneurial, and being entrepreneurial is not having all the answers. I think the risk companies run when in growth is to want to plug something in, but you don't because it's not perfect yet. Never let perfection stand in the way of progress. Okay, when you're trying to grow a business, it's about making change and adapting as you go. And then also, but I think also it's about, you got to have faith in your people. You've got to say, I can spend this on marketing and I'm going to see a result from it. I'm going to sell this backlog, but we're going to build it down. And I'm going to be able to repeat because I'm no longer the bottleneck, and I'm trusting in a team, and I'm willing to invest in it.
I love that, Brian. And in terms of processes that you're implementing in the business and growing the team, what Are there different changes that you might have to make going from 20 to 40 million? I mean, what roles might you be hiring for at that stage? Like, what changes?
Yeah, so
or are they the same problems, just bigger ones?
Well, I think what happens in an organization, the risk that every organization has, is that if you look at a typical org chart, you've got the CEO at the top, then you have some sort of an executive leadership team, then you have a frontline manager, and then you have people that face the customer. So if you think about people that face the customer, sales reps, installation people, marketing people, organizations train the heck out of these people. We script them, we practice them, we role play with them. They have to know a script before they can go visit with a customer. They have to know a script before they can get on the telephone. They have to know how to install something. And so they get really, the frontline people get really developed in our industry. Okay. The executive leadership team, well, they're talking to the CEO all the time. They get developed like crazy. The people that get neglected in an organization are the frontline managers. The frontline managers are the ones that are often where the training gap is, where we put somebody in that role typically because, well, they're the most experienced, so I'm going to make them a manager. But have we really taught them what it means to be a good manager? If I can go down a rabbit hole with you for a minute, I'll share with you that Google hires a bunch of really, really smart people. We all know that. And Google at one point in their life cycle, they questioned, are managers even important? Do they even matter? We have all these techies. Do managers even matter? So they actually, for them to, I mean, it's Google, okay? So for them to answer the question if managers matter, they have to then prove the opposite. So they went out to prove the opposite, that managers don't matter inside of their organization. And it's called Google Project Oxygen. I invite anybody to Google Project Oxygen. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars to prove that managers don't matter. And what they found is the exact opposite. Not only do managers matter, but there are 10 behaviors to a great manager. And they list them out. And it's, to be a good coach, to empower a team and not micromanage them, to create an inclusive team environment that shows care and concern for their team, to be productive and results oriented, to be a good communicator, which what that means is to both listen and share information. You're back to silos. To support career development and discuss performance with your team, performance reviews, all that kind of stuff. A good manager has a clear vision and strategy for their team. They have the key technical skills to help advise their team. They collaborate across different divisions, and they're strong decision makers. That's the Google Project 10. It's on Google. They have their whole management training program up online. If you ever want a really good management training program, Google Project Oxygen and just use theirs. That's what we do. We just have implemented it through our whole organization.
I love that. Go ahead, Ted.
Oh, go ahead, John. I was just going to say, I did have a little sort of follow-up question back to kind of along the silo piece too, as you have employees that are, or departments that may not entirely come back. Some will work remote, or key employees. I've been reading more and more about a concern with, remote employees being viewed as not as good as in-house employees, just because they're not there. Just the sort of, they're not in the room, they're more likely to be passed over. How do you keep some of that back to the culture? How do you keep some of that equity to let a department that may be partially remote, or an employee that may be fully remote, still feel a part of the team and still be viewed as just as viable as somebody in the building?
Right. So pre-COVID, if you were to come to Tundraland, first of all, you couldn't find a parking space because we got cars all over the place. And when you're hiring someone and you're onboarding them, you're taking them through the different rooms, and there's this energy and it's rah rah rah, and it's welcome, and the culture and the feel and the vibe and all that stuff. And now you're onboarding somebody and you're having a Zoom meeting, and now they're working from their living room. And I think we as an organization had to really quickly understand, how do we truly onboard somebody differently? Who should they meet? How do we look? We can still, there's no reason why new employees can't meet with our leadership team once a week and understand a little bit about the mission, vision, and values of the business. There's no reason why we can't celebrate publicly that somebody's been with us 90 days and congratulations, and that's really cool, and make it celebratory. I think just the fact that they work remote, I think if we we can't allow that to be an excuse as to a reason why somebody feels isolated. It's our responsibility as leaders, to really create an inclusive team environment. And by the way, it's one of the number 3 on Google Project Oxygen.
Yeah, Brian, and one of the great ways that you've solved for that is those daily stand-up meetings across the entire organization. I love that. So let's dive into charity. We've been talking about growing the business, impact of COVID. Let's kind of take a step back. And one of the things personally that I've been really impressed by is Brian and Tundraland's ongoing commitment to a lot of different organizations, great organizations in Wisconsin. And Brian, I think a lot of folks are definitely in the process of exploring doing charity work in their business, and maybe many are looking at it as like a means to do some marketing in different ways. What's your approach, and how do you give back? What are some of the things that you guys do?
So first and foremost, our mission statement of our business is to do well and do good. As an organization, what that means as a business is it's okay to make a decent profit, but you can make a decent profit decently. And that's what do well and do good means. And we believe that the better we do as an organization, the more good we can do for the communities that we serve. So look, I think it's a personal journey. I think that you as an organization have to find what's authentic to you and to your team, by asking your team what they believe in, and then execute on that. And there was a time we used to just kind of write a check to like the Boys and Girls Club, and it felt like the money was just going into some ocean and it wasn't really making an impact. We made a decision early on that we want to do stuff for individuals in our community, that we want to make a positive impact in the lives of not just our customers and not just our employees, but people in the communities that we serve. And that's at the core of our Tundraland Cares mission. And whether it's and if I can share with you some of the things we do, one of the things we do is our Windows for a Cause program. So, and what that is when we put new windows into people's homes, instead of taking the old windows out and just throwing them in the trash like most companies do, we pull selected windows out of the trash, and we work with local artists, community members, business owners, sports organizations, elementary schools, you name it. And we have people turn these old windows into beautiful art pieces. They repurpose them. And then once a year, we display these beautiful art pieces at a downtown Appleton. And we do it, and we have food and music, and we have a giant public auction. We invite people out to come and bid on these windows, and people buy the windows. And we raise a ton of money every year, and 100% of all the money that's raised goes to make a positive impact in the life of another individual in our community. The very first year we did it, there was this fellow. His name was John Green. He was a Vietnam era war veteran, and he's been stuck in a wheelchair for over 40 years. I mean, just imagine that, okay? Well, we raised enough money to get John a custom wheelchair that stands up. The guy can stand up for the first time in 40 years off of windows that would normally go in the trash. Now, I'll share with you one over my, let's see, which shoulder is it? Oh, that shoulder there, there's a little white background thing right there. That's what we did a few years ago, is because we set up so many windows. I'm like, I wonder what's the record for displayed windows. So I actually called Guinness World Records, and I asked them, what's the record for the most displayed windows? And they said, well, it's a new category. We don't have one, but we love it. But it's 1,500 windows. You got to display 1,500. So we had this huge community calling. We had people bringing their grandkids down and painting windows. It was a whole weekend event. It was so much fun. The news media was there. And anyway, we ended up setting a Guinness World Record for the most painted windows in any one location. So that's one example. Another example, something a lot easier to execute on, is we do baths and showers. And what we do is at music festivals or even anywhere where you see our displays, we have in our bath displays, we have a microphone, we have speakers, and we have music instruments. And we invite people to sing in our shower. Random people, come on by, sing in the shower, do a tune, we video it, we put it on our Facebook page. And once we get a certain amount of people singing in our shower, we then send a kid to music school for a year. So far we've sent like 5 kids to music school. And then of course our program with our veterans, which is Baths for the Brave, because a lot of veterans, it's the things that we all take for granted is like taking a shower in your own home safely. We just take that for granted. There are a lot of people, proud veterans that have served our country, that are literally afraid of their own bathroom because they have a bathtub that's dangerous to step over. We see that as simply unacceptable. And if we can change some of that, then good for us. So we started crashing veterans' bathrooms and do free bath projects. Where it's turned into, now I've got last year on Veterans Day in 14 states across the country, myself and other like-minded home improvement companies just like you, we surprised veterans with free baths all at the same time, all at the same day, just in time for Veterans Day. And we think that is, to me, that's what culture is about. It's about getting the team involved in making a positive impact in the communities that we serve.
I love that, Brian. It's a great journey that your team must have taken to kind of decide on where to focus. I gotta say, I feel like this industry is filled with musicians. I'm a drummer myself. I feel like, everybody I've met like many bassists in this industry. So that's great. You're giving back to the music and arts community too, as well as the veterans. And you made a good point about that being, I don't want to say low-hanging fruit, but an easy, quick win to remodel, a veteran's bathtub. For those companies that haven't really explored that charity, haven't gone through that journey that you guys took, what's some advice that you'd give them when they're looking to invest in communities?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about make authenticity. It's about business is about authenticity and not something fake. And I would get with your team. Ask your people. What do we? Let's do something cool. What do we want to do that's something cool that we can actually execute on and change somebody's life. And it doesn't even have to be. It's not like you have to spend $50,000 to remodel somebody's house. It could be a random act of kindness that is meaningful. It could be raking somebody's lawn. With your team, it could be raking a block of homes. It could be anything. It's the little things that make the big difference, and your team will feel really good because of it.
That's great.
Yeah, and I would add to that, talking to as many contractors as I do, I think there's a lot of contractors that do certain things, and it's not necessarily to the extent that you do it, Brian, but they don't always meet on how to, put the words out there or express when they participate in, breast cancer awareness walks, or even like supporting like the local high school football team or the Girl Scouts. As Josh showed earlier, with the millennial group being a larger buyer segmentation, you're also going to see that there's an increase in wanting, the dollars spent to go towards not just a good deal on my roof, not just a good deal on my windows, but going towards a company that you can trust and you feel good purchasing. You see that type of cause marketing being used, really effectively. And I don't mean it like a dirty word, that, you want to highlight the things that you do as an organization and why a prospect should want to, give Tundraland their money. I think that's completely reasonable.
Yeah, and Ted, I want to follow up on that, because this is a super important point when it comes to cause marketing or when it comes to doing good in the community, because I'm sure that everybody on this webinar does something cool. They give their own way, and maybe you feel like, well, yeah, but I like to give quietly and I like to give anonymously, and that's all cool. But my feeling is this: I like to talk about it big and bold, very simply, because what I want to do is I want to change the conversation in our industry. That's what I want to do. I want to change the conversation on how a home improvement company can actually make a positive impact in the communities that we serve. And I do it for those reasons, because I think sometimes we can just change the conversation by simply talking about it.
Absolutely. So the next section here, we're going to jump into, some of the sales and marketing, getting into the nitty-gritty of some of the numbers, and just some recent numbers to kind of go through here before we jump into the questions. And these are, national averages. So different states, different products, this is going to swing pretty crazy, but, $186 is the average cost per lead, and that's across multiple marketing channels. An average job size being about $12,000, and a close rate, which I was pretty impressed with, saying that the average close rate of 59%. It's really important now more than ever, with the fact that there is an increase of cash coming through with people with these checks, with taxes. There's going to be some people that have returns. to kind of get your systems in place and really put the best foot forward when it comes to sales and marketing. So the first question I would ask is something that I think is both near and dear to Hatch and Socius's heart here is, what do you want your first impression to be with a prospect? Because I'm the firm believer that you are selling before a salesman or before Tundraland ever picks up the phone. So can you talk through some of that?
Yeah, so the first impression, look, I think whatever you're doing in your organization, if you think about what should the platform of any marketing be, it should always be a digital. It should always be having a really, really strong website that's super easy to navigate. We use Socius. We happily use Socius. We've been using it for years. And the reason we do that is we want, if a customer goes on your website and it's not a good experience for them, and they're having troubles trying to figure out how to fill out a form, and they can't figure out even how to fill out a form, I don't want a customer getting frustrated when we're in the dating stage, and that's what it is. We're in the dating stage. I want them to absolutely love every part of it. I want that customer journey to be magnificent from the day we meet them to the day it's installed. And a strong website, a strong digital strategy. And look, and I want to, if somebody's Googling us, I want to be able to be found. And again, I think having a strong website and web strategy, and I'm going to plug Socius because they're just my favorite. But it'll change your business if you do it right. It'll change your business.
So in terms of, obviously, like, lead comes in, you got a great website experience, your sales rep sets the appointment, runs the appointment. A lot of folks are doing this thing called rehash, and I think a lot of different folks define it in different ways. And some people consider it, negatively, because a lot of folks just use that to just increase the price. I know you're doing rehash right now. What does that look like in your business, and how successful is it?
Yeah. So let me just clarify. Rehash as a term is a very transactional relationship. It's, oh my gosh, they didn't buy from us. We're going to go back in and see if we can sell it. That's transactional. If you're only doing that, okay, I mean, I'm not going to tell you to not do that. But what I will tell you, the bigger opportunity is what's called continual process improvement. If you think about, as an organization, you never want to get disrupted, right? And how do you not get disrupted? I have to know not only why my buyers are buying from me, but I have to also know why my non-buyers aren't buying from me, which is in many ways more important. I want to know why the people that didn't buy. Because if I don't fix that problem, I could be disrupted as an organization. If you want to know the frustration that the people that were trying to hail a cab, why were they frustrated? And if you knew that and you reacted to it, Uber wouldn't have disrupted your world. Okay, you have to understand how to become a better organization, and you're going to become a better organization by understanding by listening to both the buyers and the non-buyers. If you think about it this way, you've got your price. And you've got your cost, right? And an organization captures value, you as a company, the difference between how much it costs you to do it and how much you charge, and that's where you capture value. The consumer captures value by whatever the price was that you charged against the willingness to pay. How much were they willing to pay versus how much did they pay? That's where they capture value. You want to understand where you're capturing value and where you're not capturing value. So the point of this is this. Talking to your non-buyers is super important. We automate the whole process. We automate everything, and we use a program called Hatch. And, Josh, we work with your team on that. It's kind of cool because if I can tell you how we use it, it's not just about our revisit and continual process improvement program, but it's definitely used for that. But the other thing we use it for is again, we're always trying to create a great customer journey. So let's say we go out to a home and there were 2 bathrooms in there, and maybe we only did one of the showers, and we know there's this other bathroom that one day wants to get done. Well, we could maybe try to call them all the time and say, hey, do you want to get that other shower done? You want to get that other shower done? Or I can use Hatch and I can create a campaign that is a drip campaign that will communicate with that customer reminders why, hey, now might be a great time to really look at that second bath. I'm not then relying on the human being to execute on it. I'm relying on the software. And or if somebody meets us at a home show and sets an appointment, I can tell them through Hatch what we're most looking forward to. Or if they didn't set an appointment, I can tell them why maybe they should have set an appointment. Hatch automates a lot of stuff that I think really helps you as a competitive advantage.
I love that. And you touched on a little bit about the repeat and the add-on business. So is there a process right now where a sales rep runs the appointment, and let's just say the deal is closed, right? They buy the windows.
Yep.
How do you go back, like, and who owns that in your business? Like, what does that look like to try to get that repeat or that add-on business after the fact?
Yeah, it's like any organization. It's like, oh my gosh, your best customer is the one that's already bought from you. So again, how can you automate some of that stuff? So if we go out to a home and there are 8 windows in the home and people bought 4, I can try to remember to call them and create a call queue where we're calling them all the time. Right. Or again, I can create some sort of an automated program through Hatch and remind people about and talk about why doing the rest of your windows in your home makes a whole lot of sense. I can create custom messages for that customer's unique situation. It's different than just sending out, hey, you ought to do windows. Well, we already did windows with you. I want to talk to this customer about why they should do the other 4 windows that they didn't do already. This is, again, and what's really cool, by the way, is there's something called an open API. What that means is, what's an open API? First time I heard that, I'm like, what the heck is an open API? What that means is it's this thing that allows 2 pieces of software to talk to each other. So we have our Improvement 360 CRM, and then we have our Hatch, and oh, by the way, we have Socius over here, and all of these things talk to each other through what's called an open API. So it's not like anybody has to do anything or push any buttons. So what happens is a lead gets resulted, it's sold 4 windows, there are 4 more to do. It's the lead came through Socius, our website, we know which page they went on, it's in our CRM, and then all of a sudden an automatic message campaign begins with Hatch automatically, and you know what? I got to tell you something. We'd have to have 500 people just in our call center to try to do that manually. So it's kind of cool.
Love that. Appreciate the plug, Brian.
Yeah. I think the really important thing too, and this goes across with CRMs and with web companies and technology pieces like Hatch too, is the speed that allows, as opposed, because technically you don't have to have a CRM. You don't have to have a cell phone. You can pull over and use the payphone and use Maps. It's not going to work as well for you. There's efficiencies here, and by having a website generating leads that can kick it into a CRM to let it hit your systems faster, regardless of the size of the company, is going to improve your speed to lead and your ability to convert. You don't want to be one of 4 people given a quote. You want to be the first one there, make the case, and be the only one.
Yeah, and by the way, you asked the question earlier about $20 to $40 million. How do you grow from, or 10 to 20 or 20 to 40? It's if you think about finding the right what I call process partners. Okay, I look at Socius as a process partner for our digital strategy. I look at Hatch as a process partner for us to take those that didn't buy and maybe turn them into buyers and learn something from them. Those that bought partials and turn them into full sales. I look at them as a process partner. Think about process partners in your organization and what process partners, because you can't do it on your own. In order to grow, what process partners make sense for your organization?
Love it. Thanks, Brian. And now switching gears a little bit, and we already had a question come in about production, and we'll get to that in a second. But obviously, a big issue right now is material and labor shortages. 54% reported growing backlog, 83% experiencing delays, and 39% are actually turning down work opportunities. So I want to make sure everybody's awake right now. Hopefully you are, because this has been absolutely riveting for me personally. So are you guys experiencing labor shortages today? I'm going to start this poll right now. Jump in there and let us know. Yes, we're struggling to hire. Yes, but we're taking care of it, which means that you got some folks in the pipeline. 3 is it's not too bad, and last of which, D, is not at all. And while we're running this poll, Brian, are you experiencing this? What is your approach here?
Our business, we were chatting before this webinar started. If I look at our first 75 days of this year, removing the COVID equation out of last year against the first 75 days of last year, pre-COVID, our business is up 100. Our old businesses combined, we're up 116%, which is a huge growth for us. So it's super exciting. But yeah, there's definitely labor challenges. However, I think we've gotten pretty far ahead of it. If you had asked me when I first started the business what I would tell you that we were a construction company. If you would have asked me, 5 or 6 years ago, I would have said, well, we're a sales and marketing company that happens to be in home improvements. If you ask me today, I'm going to tell you we're a training organization. We're able to bring, whether it's window installers or bath installers or any role that we're trying to fill, we're not necessarily looking for experience. We're looking to bring in a mass group of people. We've converted a ton of our warehouse space to classroom environments where we can teach how to lay down a drop cloth, or we can teach how to bend metal, or we can teach how to demo a bathroom, or we can teach how to install a window or how to cut trim. And we've actually created a full-on sort of like a tech school training organization. What this means is I can get people out of high school that likes to work with their hands, and I can teach them a craft and give them a career path. And it's simply changed our business. And again, I'm excited because we've got our marketing pedal to the metal because we feel that we're uniquely qualified to continue to take market share because of our lack of fear of building out our backlog.
Gotcha. And Brian, how is your team finding these candidates?
It's everything from Facebook marketing to working with Socius through a jobs page to, oh, by the way, Hatch too. Let's say, you've got all these people that you've gotten resumes for and you're trying to rehash resumes. Look, just because they didn't call you back right away, create an automatic drip campaign and see if you can, use Hatch for bringing some of these old candidates back in the loop. It's about staying in communication, but you also have to treat lead generation like it's marketing. So when you get a resume, to me, you got to call it immediately. I would say to you, and I'm not just Josh, I'm not trying to just try to sell your business here, but there's not always somebody available to make a phone call and call a resume when it first comes in. But if it can come in and all of a sudden Hatch is sending them an instant, hey, got your message, we're really interested in setting up a time and talking to you, and creating that dialogue right away, they're going to stop looking for other jobs because they got some feedback from you. Otherwise they're going to keep looking for another job and somebody else is going to hire them.
Yeah, I love it, Brian, and that mindset shift of when you're hiring, treat it like a lead, like a marketing lead, like your sales reps going to run that lead. It's a great point because it's a big issue in the industry that the majority of you guys are facing today. So what about material shortages? So I'm going to drop this poll, and while we're polling the audience here, Brian, I mean, what's been your experience? Obviously, lumber was a big issue, but that's not necessarily the space that you play in. Like, what have you seen, and how are you addressing that?
Yeah. So, lumber in our deck business, we struggle with that. I mean, the price point. But what we've done is early on, when COVID first hit, again, there were essentially 5 things we were focusing on, which was making, number 1, making sure we have tight communications internally. Number 2, can we keep our employees safe? Number 3, can we keep our customers safe? Number 4, can we, how cash management, stress test our P&L? And number 5, firm up supply chains. Those are the 5 things that we were focused on. And what we've done is we brought in a lot of inventory ahead of time. Normally, we run a just-in-time model. If we're putting it in next week, we get it this week. We've changed that. We're bringing stuff in 4, 5, 6 weeks ahead of time. It's disruptive right now, okay? It's super disruptive. My recommendation is this is a great opportunity if you're a business owner to look at your businesses look at the products you're offering. And if it's not a profitable product line, you might want to maybe not push it right now. Focus on those things that you can turn quickly that has a reliable supply chain, because you don't make money until the job is installed. So really, really focus on that. And sometimes simplicity. You're going to scale your business by focusing on removing complexity and focusing on simplicity.
Gotcha, Brian. And the question did come in from Michelle. She asked, what comes first, waiting until you have enough jobs to hire more people, or hiring people then activate the team and then marketing efforts as well to get those jobs. She mentions that it's kind of a limbo. How do you approach that?
Yeah, so I have the same debate with with my executive leadership team and all the different GMs. I have never in the life of my business had too many installers. I've never had that problem. Okay, it's always I don't have enough installers. I don't have enough installers. So for me personally, I'm happy to invest and hire ahead of my needs on the back end, because I know I've got good partners in marketing. I can always call Socius and say, turn up my ad spend. I can always pump up a TV campaign. I can always hire salespeople. I can always generate more leads to keep the guys busy. So I always focus on building out your back end beyond your capabilities and having the front end chase it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is always looking at, essentially bench building. Even if you don't necessarily need the person today, you very well could need them tomorrow. Along the same lines of, the production process here is, how do you look at, what's the process when it comes to product lines or product manufacturers or vendors that you work with? What sort of things are you looking for? And what tips can you give to contractors that are in that evaluation stage of, I can maybe go with this window guy or this marketing company or this CRM, whatever the case?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, when it comes to a manufacturer, if I can't get product differentiation, I'm not going to mess with it. That's me personally. If I can't have an exclusive product in a market, I'm personally not going to have an appetite to take on that product line, because it's very disruptive, because we're not the cheapest game in town. And if they can if they can see prices for my products online, or they can, if the consumer can see prices, or if they can shop me in my market, it's probably not the right fit. There are other, we're growing, we're a good company. We're a good partner for manufacturers. So I look for product exclusivity, and I look for products that, and it's, by the way, it's in our vision statement, is we look for products that add value to our customers and our company. And what I mean by that is, can I install it quickly? Is it going to come in? Is it dependable? What is their, are they going to deliver on their promise? Do they have a team of people that can help teach us what we need to know? Can I market it? Can I make a margin at it that I need to make? And, and is it not going to be disruptive? Is it, sometimes people chase things that are out in left field. I've made the same mistake. I've chased products that, what the heck am I selling this for? I must be out of my mind. And it becomes such a distraction. But the other point of it is that, for me, if we can, selling one or two things is really disruptive in our company. I need to be able to sell 100 of those things a month. That's how we scale. To do a one-off and just sell it here once in a while or there once in a while, it's super disruptive for our company. So we look at things that we can scale too, and that's really important.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So if any of you guys have questions related to anything that we've talked about, you're going to have an opportunity to ask them now, and we'll get to them right in a bit after we do the giveaway. So if you're interested in learning more about any of our companies, Hatch, Socius, indicate so in the poll. We're happy to reach out, show you guys around the platform. I know, Brian, appreciate you speaking so highly of our companies, and we're really excited and grateful to be working with you guys at different capacities. So if you're interested in learning more about any of our companies, let us know in the poll. We're happy to help show you around. And again, if anybody has any questions here, go ahead and go over to the Q&A and ask any questions. We've got a couple minutes at the end to go over those.
And while you're doing that poll, I'll share with you a concept here that, if you think about, even on the production side, if you want to build a giant ship that's going to sail across the mighty ocean, don't just simply look to hire a whole bunch of people and teach them how to swing a hammer. You first have to get people to yearn for the open sea. And the more you get somebody to yearn for the open sea, the more magnificent a boat they'll build. So it's great to hire installers. Don't forget about the onboarding process and making that first day about culture and mission and vision and core values and opportunity and career path. Really make sure that first day of onboarding, whether they're a helper in your organization or whether they're a salesperson, that they understand that they've joined an organization with a real career path opportunity. And because it's not just a matter of how many people you hire, it's how many don't you lose. So, because if people join organizations for culture, and you want them to stick around.
Good stuff, Brian.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I did want to because we're getting close on time here, I want to try to cover some of these questions here. This one may be a quick one, Brian, but percentage of your overall budget on marketing. And
Yep.
And I'll ask, before you say if there's a hard number, is it the same regardless of the size of the business, or do you have the luxury to kind of play with things as you get larger?
It takes more fuel to get a plane going than it does to keep it level. I'll tell you that. So when you're trying to scale a business, you're gonna make marketing mistakes, and it's gonna cost money. The thing about that is just it's okay to be wrong, just don't be wrong for long. Measure everything. But and different products have a different marketing percentage. When I look at our marketing percentage, I look at a fully loaded marketing cost. That's with call center, that's with marketing managers, that's with costs, that's with showroom expense. And look, I think in the replacement business, you want to be, when you start getting over 15 or 16%, it's kind of hard to, it kind of really cuts into profitability. And I think you can run a really good business for between 14 and 16% fully burdened as a marketing cost. Some divisions should run less than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Call center should run about between 2 and 3% of your overall volume. If you look at your overall volume and you're trying to say, what should my call center run? Between 2 and 3% of overall volume is pretty common across the country.
Gotcha. And then I saw in here too, Ken was asking, what's the most beneficial technology improvement you've implemented in the past few years?
Going paperless. That by far. What we do now, if you buy a bath from us, just take the customer journey of being paperless. If you're buying a bath from us, the sales rep is having you sign a paperless contract. They're hitting submit. That contract is now inside of customer care, and the telephone is now ringing at the kitchen table where the salesperson is, and we have customer care on with the homeowner, reviewing the contract that they just bought and giving them an exact installation date for their bath the moment they buy. That's operational excellence. It's almost impossible to do if you're not paperless.
Yeah, and it seems like you kind of run that an efficient organization from the get-go. It's having a website that says what you do, explains clearly who you are, the process afterwards, and getting in touch with them from different technology like Hatch makes it that much easier. Going paperless, you're giving a perception to the client as to what they can expect, which also then translates to the quality of work and gives you that margin. And sometimes when there's mistakes or things don't go as well as if you're exceeding expectations, it makes things a lot easier, right?
Todd, there was a time in this industry when you could say, we have a lifetime warranty, and nobody else did. Now everybody's got a lifetime warranty. Everybody's got all these. So the points of differentiation become, super narrow, but you can make operational excellence a real point of differentiation. And by the way, that's the most difficult thing to compete with, because it's organizational excellence. And if you focus on organizational excellence, and you're able to communicate that and prove that, it's a very, very defensible position from a competitive edge.